Let's now shift our focus to China, the country that gave us the Wuhan virus. 3 years and 6.7 million deaths later, the Wuhan killer continues to wreak havoc. Only this time, the turf is its home country. For the last 1 month, we have been getting you reports on the severity of China's new outbreak. A month on, the reports just keep getting worse. Take this one, for example. It's based on a study by the peer-reviewed journal Nature Medicine. It says 92% of the population in Beijing will catch the virus by January end. 92%, that's a big number. If we look at the trajectory of this spike, in December 2022, last year, 76% of Beijing's population had contracted the infection. By January 31, this number is expected to climb to 92%. That's a rise of 16% in just 40 days, give or take. And the question is, what are these estimates even based on? How exactly did the researchers even arrive at this conclusion? Well, they say this number came up after tracking the reproduction rate of Omicron variant BF7 in the last 3 months. According to their study, on 11th of November, the reproduction rate had jumped, stood at 1.04. A week later, it had jumped to 3.44, meaning that one person with the virus could infect 3.44 others. I know some of you may find it hard to wrap your head around. So in simple words, I'll just say this, that Omicron's ability to infect more people increased in a week. And by all means, it's still increasing. The researchers, in fact, say that this study should serve as a warning to Beijing, a warning to step up preparedness. Let me now quote their statement. Surveillance programs should be rapidly set up to monitor the spread and evolution of the infections, and further work should be done to track the transmissibility, incidence, and infection rate of this epidemic. I repeat, surveillance programs should be rapidly set up to monitor the spread. Is China even paying any heed to this warning? Well, when has it ever done that? As I speak, the country is busy celebrating Lunar New Year. With most Wuhan virus rules and restrictions lifted, people are out and about on the streets. Caution has been thrown into the air. Meanwhile, this Chinese state media has been carrying reports like these. This one is from CGTN. Read very carefully what it states. How China adjusted COVID-19 policies in 3 years to protect the people. Did it? Last we checked, from the restrictions to the number of deaths, all of it had an eerie resemblance to the outbreak in 2020. And then we have reports like these. Xinhua carried it earlier this week. Have a look at what it states. China secures maximum outcomes at minimum costs with COVID-19 response. Let me just rephrase that for you. China secured maximum infections at minimum responsibility. Now, here's the thing. China may or may not have passed the peak of its outbreak. It may or may not have left the worst behind it, but the kind of lies that it is telling the world need to be called out, because the reports that are coming out of the country are self-contradictory. Some authorities are saying one thing, others are saying something else. The Global Times, for that matter, carried this report just yesterday. It said people in rural China spent a safe and happy spring festival. This report is based on the account of one person. And the Global Times is using this to generalize the situation in rural China. Now have a look at this report. A Financial Times author sent this from Hong Kong. It says rural China is running short of COVID-19 drugs during Lunar New Year holiday. It says that many villages are struggling to obtain antiviral medication. How the drug shortfalls that hit hospitals in metropolitan cities are now expanding into the rural areas. Now, I know what China may call these reports. It will label them as reports written from a biased lens by the West. Why then was the country's own leader fretting about the situation in rural China? Just a few days back, remember, Xi Jinping said rural China was ill-equipped to deal with the fresh infections. And just a few days later, the state media is saying people are spending their holidays safely, happily. I mean, just who is China even trying to fool here? Perhaps itself and its own people. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.